Today, we're going to be reviving a long-dead game show known as Hole in the Wall. You might have heard of it before. Contestants are placed in a play area just in front of a pool of water or slime, and they need to position themselves to fit in the hole of the approaching wall. Usually, this game only lasted a few rounds, but what if we could make it go until you fail to fit? And what if we changed the rules and make up a whole course filled with walls so that you have to fit through all of them and get to the end? In this challenge, that's exactly what we're going to do. So, how are we making this game? Just like last time, we're going to use a third-person template file from Unreal Engine and work from there. To get started, we're going to set up our player character. Our character is going to be made up of 5 geometric shapes: a cube, a sphere, a cylinder, a cone, and a T-shape. Throughout the game, we'll be able to swap between these shapes to fit through the various shaped holes in the walls. Using a character blueprint, we can easily write a few events that will swap our character's static mesh to the next or previous shape. Sounds simple, right? Well, you'd think so until you start getting into the collision of our character. One of the problems I noticed almost immediately was that the character's collision wouldn't match their selected shape. This issue is mostly because of how Unreal's character blueprint is designed. See, the character blueprint already has a capsule collision volume inside of it that it uses for movement and collision, but we need the collision to match the shape we need to fit through the wall. So to fix this, we need to add collision volumes to the different meshes and combine it with the capsule collision in the character blueprint. It took a long time to figure this one out, but our character finally has a working collision that I'm happy with. Before we start working on our game modes, there's one more thing our player needs to set it up for later. In the course mode, we're going to want our player to only be able to swap shapes whenever they're on a swap spot. Because we want our swapping to be limited in the course mode, we need to add a Boolean variable to our character that we can use to control our swapping. If we set it to true, then we'll be able to swap. If we set it to false, then we won't be able to. Now that our player's character is set up and it has a good base around it, let's make some walls to jump through. The first thing we need to do to get our walls is, well, make our walls. We have 5 different shapes that our player can swap to, and I want about 6 different cutouts for each of those shapes, making a total of 30 walls. I also made a frame and dolly system for the walls that would be moving and not stationary. This is somewhat inspired from the actual game show, as the walls would move toward the player on the play area. Next, we can write a blueprint for us to be able to control how they behave in the world. There's a couple of variables that we're going to need to start. First, we're going to need a Boolean to tell us if the wall is movable or not, and if it isn't movable, then we can just have the frame and the dolly be invisible as well. Then, we're going to need a separate Boolean to tell us if a movable wall should move from point A to point B or bounce off the two. And lastly, we need a static mesh variable that we can use to randomize or select which wall spawns. However, only using these variables by themselves aren't going to magically make our walls move. To do that, we need to add an interp to movement component to our blueprint. This is going to allow us to dictate where the walls move to and from, how long it should take, and what movement pattern they should use. By adding 2 vector variables that I, for simplicity's sake, named location 1 and location 2, and exposing these variables, I'm able to get the walls to move the way I want. Now that we've got a good base for our walls and a solid base for our character, it's time to actually start building the game modes. Infinite mode, much like the original game show, is pretty straightforward. The player will be restricted to a small platform while the walls move toward them. If the player clears a wall without falling off the platform, their score increases, and as the game progresses, the walls will start to come faster, making more of a challenge. We can set up this logic by creating a new game mode blueprint and writing 2 custom events. The first event will add a point to our current score whenever a wall is cleared by the player. The second event will increase the frequency between walls spawning and the amount of time it takes for the walls to get to the player. To prevent the spawning and movement from getting out of hand, I clamp these values so that after the player gets a score of 30, it no longer speeds it up. The last item we need before we can start testing the infinite mode is a looping spawner for the walls. At the start of the game, we want a randomized wall to be spawned that will move toward the player, and the next one to spawn after whatever the delay is set to in our game mode. To randomize these walls, we can build an array of our different static meshes and pick one from random out of that array when spawning a wall. Now we can start placing all of our blueprints into the level and test things out. Alright, so here we are in the game mode. We've got all of our blueprints put in here in our level. We've got our play area, our little slime that we fall into here. And then over in the distance there, it's a little hard to see, but we've got our wall spawner that spawns our walls randomly. Everything should be working as intended. Everything should be working perfectly. So if we hop in here and test, Okay, so we can see our character. Nice, nice. We can swap between them. Okay. And then we should be able to just go right through. Yeah. Fun. All right. If I go through this one, will it... Yeah. So I can even go through as different shapes too. Perfect. Sweet. All right. Well, it looks like we got everything working. So, wait. Wait, no. So you guys remember our old friend Collision, right? Well, he's back at it again. So what you may have noticed from that small little clip is that when the player is moving, the wall will push the player off the platform. But when staying completely still, the player would phase through the wall and continue to rack up points. Obviously, this is not what we want, and it took me a long time to figure out what was going on here. To save anyone else some trouble, here's a little tidbit about Unreal for any nerds out there. The way that Unreal Engine decides to handle the character collision is to update the collision when the player is moving, and when they're moving only. Meaning that if the player isn't moving at all, the collision doesn't update, so it acts as if it's not even there. I'm sure that there's a better way to get around this issue, but what I decided to do was to move my character up and then down 0.01 every single tick. This registers as enough movement for the character collision to update, but not enough to see the character just jittering up and down constantly. So with that, our infinite game mode is technically working, but we still need to add a few other items to make it feel more polished. The most important being a heads-up display, or HUD, that shows the player's score, what the current game mode is, and a game over screen whenever the player falls off the platform. We also want the player to be able to pause the game, so we'll add a pause menu for the player as well. The other more fun item is to add a crowd around the arena, because who doesn't love an audience? And that wraps up the infinite mode. So let's test it out. Before we move on, I want to say, if you've made it this far in the video, I applaud your patience. As a special reward, I've hidden something inside the game, and if you can find it and post it in the comments or my Discord, you'll get a special reward. Now back to the video. Setting up the course mode will be a little bit different from our infinite mode, and it's going to require a few extra blueprints to get it set up. The key differences being that the player will be able to progress through the course, but they won't be able to swap at will. They're going to need to be in a swap zone to change shapes. We can start by making a basic platform blueprint with a collision box on top of it, and whenever the player is overlapping the collision box, they'll be able to swap. We can also use these platforms as checkpoints for the player, so they respawn on the last swap zone that they touched if they fall off the course. The other blueprint that we need is a finish line that will ultimately be the player's objective at the end of the course. We can reuse the swap zone blueprint and edit the logic to end the game whenever the player touches it. Now that we've got those blueprints built, we can start building out the course. I wanted to start with the basics. Have the player jump through an initial wall, then have them swap shapes to get through the next ones. This will introduce them to the main mechanic of using the swap zones to progress. Keeping that idea in mind, I started building out a linear course for the player to navigate. I made sure to include some walls that are stationary and some that would move back and forth. This was working for a bit as I was building the initial sections, but I started getting bored with how I was building them. So, I decided to take some inspiration from a different game show and make a final climactic section. This tower would be the final test for players to climb. Moving walls and platforms to ascend, quickly swapping shapes after you clear a wall, and an unforgiving fall should you be pushed off. and sitting right at the top would be that glorious finish to it all. Okay, that's a little dramatic, but you get the idea. To wrap up the course mode, we need to add a few extra things just like our infinite game mode to polish it up. Again, we need a HUD that shows the player's time, current game mode, and a game over screen whenever the player finishes the course. We can also reuse the pause screen that we made for the previous game mode and add our audience to the start of the course. And that's it for course mode, but before we move on, let's test it out. So if you remember the rolling game from last time, that game didn't look great, and there were a lot of things that were missing that made it feel unpolished. This time, I want to fix that. The key areas I wanted to focus on this time are the user interface and the audio. To start out, I wanted to add a main menu for the player to select each game mode from. Since there's two different options, the player needs to select which one to play. Additionally, I wanted to have a how to play section in the menu that gives the players the different controls to play, which was seriously lacking in the previous game. I also want the players to be able to see what their best score or time is in each game mode. This means creating a save game blueprint to hold the player's best score for infinite mode and their best time for course mode. For the audio improvements, I wanted to add some background music and sound effects to bring everything together. Each mode and the main menu will have a looping soundtrack that plays while the game is active. I also added sound effects to the player's jump, giving the jump a more responsive feeling when it's hit. These may only seem like a few minor improvements I'm adding, but they really help make the end result feel more polished. And with all that said and done, it's time to package our game and wrap it up. Alright, so we are in the finished game product right now. We're gonna play it and see how we do. So we're gonna start with infinite mode. What would be a good amount to get to, do you think? Let's just try and shoot for 50. I think 50 would be a relatively good starting point. Alright, giving us some easy stuff right off the bat. Alright, we're about halfway to 30. Not doing too bad so far. Well, we're at 30 now, so this is the maximum speed it's going to be. Oop. Okay, this is actually kind of nuts. Oh! Well, we got 36, so that's good. Let's try that again. Oh, the wall caught me. Let's see. We still have to beat 36. We still gotta get to 50. I don't even know what that was. Oh no! No, we were so close! Damn it! Okay, 44. 44. We can get there. We can totally get there. We were so close. I'm not even looking at the score at this point. I'm just trying to stay focused. Oh, that was huge. Oh my god, I just looked at the score. We're doing phenomenal. Oh my god, so lucky with these shapes. No! Oh, damn it! Okay, 89. 89. Can we make it to 100? I think we can make it to 100. I'll give it one, maybe two more goes. Oh no! Oh, I got caught by the sphere again. No! Okay. Well, we got to 89. That was impressive. I have a feeling that we could get to 100 maybe on a different day, but for right now, 89, that's the high score to beat. I guess now we gotta go on to course mode. Okay, here we go. Oh, no! Well, already off to a bad start. Well, at least we're here. And I don't know if you guys knew this already, but you can totally just do that. Ooh. See how easy that is? And then here, and then we have to quickly swap. We're not gonna hit 145 this run, but I'm sure that if we tried it again, we will. Oh, whoa. There we go. And there's the end. Cool. 2 minutes 23. Okay. And we're off. Ooh, that was tricky. That was nice. Oh, that was so smooth. That was so smooth. Holy. Wow. Okay. 135. And I honestly don't know if I can go any better than that. Well, that wraps it up. If you like this video, be sure to let me know by clicking the like button down below. And if you want to see more content like this, be sure to subscribe to my channel to see more videos like this in the future. If you want to download this game and try it out for yourself, there's a link in the description that will take you to the download page on GameJolt. And lastly, if you want to get updates on future videos and games, join my Discord. There, you can share clips and images from the games I've made to show off how good you are. Thanks everybody so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.